Hey all, it's Casey with Russo Resells. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Casey. I am a full-time online reseller and I sell on platforms such as eBay, Poshmark, Mercari, Depop, and Curtsy. Now, when we last left off on our last What Sold, it was Wednesday, April 22nd. And after we left, I had 5 more sales that day. And then yesterday, Thursday, April 23rd, I had 4 sales. As usual, I'm in a bind to get these shown to you so I could head off to tennis. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the items sold. So the first item to sell on Wednesday is this pair of REI Co-op plus size hiking pants. And they are in a gray colorway. They are the convertible pants where you can zip these off and have shorts. These are in such fantastic condition. However, I got these a little over a year ago, and I think my pictures were just not that great, and it's an item that I knew would sell, so I really didn't look into going back into it and updating the stock photo or any of the keywords. That was my fault, and that's why it sold for such a low price. I had them priced pretty reasonably on Poshmark for $35, and my Nifty sent out 20% off offers to likers of 28. One of those likers did counter at 18, and because I've had this for such a long time, I did decide to go ahead and accept that. I have about $8 into these from my local savers, so my fees to Poshmark were $3.60, and I only made $6 by making a profit of $14.40, but I am happy to move them along to a new home to a person that is going to reuse them. Now, the next item to sell is by James Pringle Weavers. I had to do a double take on that one. This is 100% wool, and it is just a very old money luxury V-neck like sweater vest in this beautiful caramel color. It has absolutely no stains, no holes, which is incredible for being wool. And this is definitely a brand you want to be on the lookout for. The funny thing is, I just watched a video of another reseller. I think it was JM Squared. That's her username on YouTube. And she had recently picked up something similar of the same brand, and I was shocked, and literally a day or two later that sold out of my store. Kind of crazy how things like that work, but I'm happy that it is now going to a new home to be reused. I did buy that at a local mom and pop shop thrift store, and it's really cool because this lady who owns the store actually buys, I want to say, Nordstrom return pallets and a bunch of other different pallets, I would assume, from that piece. And that happened to be on a half off rack outside of the store for about $4, so I definitely could not pass it up. I priced that very reasonably on eBay for $37.99 plus $7 ship. A buyer came in and used my 18% off coupon I have running in my eBay store for the month of April. They paid $31.14 plus $7 ship. It cost me $6.43 to ship. My fees to eBay were $5.58, and I turned $4 into $26.13. I'm actually really happy that that ended up selling because I thought I would be sitting on it way longer than the 6 months it was actually listed for. That brand, although very great, very high-end luxury, it does tend to sit and it doesn't have the greatest comps. So happy that someone did see the value in it and decided to pick it up to give it another life. So the next item to sell on Wednesday is this box. It's by the House of Solage, and this is actually a very high-end perfume brand or fragrance brand, and this is just the box. There's nothing crazy about it. It does have the little note inside, and it has this really cool jewel that opens the box, but nothing crazy, literally just the box. And I actually got this from one of my aunt's friends. He had been given the opportunity to go to a next door neighbor's house when she passed away and kind of go through her things that her kids did not want. And he was told to take whatever he wanted. And he gave a lot of it to me to go ahead and sell on eBay for him. So he got all of these for free. I priced that very reasonably on eBay for $39.99 plus $10 ship. I say very reasonably because a lot of these boxes were priced at $60 to $80, and I thought that was ridiculous, so I lowered my price. And I was offered $25 plus $10 ship, which I did accept. He really doesn't care how much he is getting for each item. He just wants a little return. So I knew by accepting that he would be totally fine with that. It cost me $8.65 to ship. Our promotional fees, because this was a promoted item on eBay, were $1.89. Our fees to eBay were $5.21, and he made a profit of $11.55, and I made a profit of $7.75. So, or $7.70. So, definitely keep your eye out for things like that, because although they don't have the fragrance inside, they still could be desirable to somebody else. So the next item to sell on Wednesday is by Spanx. And usually I don't pick just these little bike shorts up from them, but this was from the same mom and pop shop thrift store that I got that James Pringle sweater vest from. So I decided to grab these. She only had them priced for $4, so I felt like I could at least squeeze 20 out of them, which is what ended up happening. I had them priced on eBay for $24.98 plus $5 ship, and a buyer came in and used my 18% off coupon. They paid $21.48 plus $5 ship. It cost me $6.07 to ship. I did have those promoted, so those fees were $1.39. My fees to eBay were $3.93, and I turned $4 into $14.09. Very happy to make $10 on an item like that. Now, the last item to sell on Wednesday is by Silkland. This is a vintage 100% silk kind of sequin polka dot blouse. Absolutely love this. And I actually primarily picked this up at my local Savers to drop my cost of goods that day. So they only had this priced at, I believe, like $4.99. So I was happy to pay that. I priced it on eBay for $24.99 plus $5 ship, and my Nifty sent out 18% off offers to watchers of $20.50 plus $5 ship, and one of those watchers did accept. It cost me $5.77 to ship. My fees to eBay were $3.87, and I turned $5 into $15.86. I know a lot of people who sell on the secondhand market are really great at vintage items. That's just not something that I really like to sell or am, really good at selling. So I try to stay away from those pieces, but when they are reasonably priced, I will pick them up to lower the rest of my cost of goods. Very crazy. That's just how I run my business. I always tell you guys, run your business the way that you want to or what suits best for you and your business, and that's definitely what I do. So going into yesterday's sales on Thursday, the first item to sell is, as you could tell, a lavender long sleeve Lulu jacket. And I knew it was Lulu by the feel, first of all, and also by the hit right there. It also has this really cool tie on it with the Lululemon logo. So I knew I wanted to pick this up. I actually found this at the Las Vegas Goodwill outlet bins, which was really fun to go to. So I probably only have about $2 into this. This was in a very picked over bin, and I want to say it was because it had a lot of pilling on it, and it still has some, which I did note in the listing. I did take a sweater shaver to it and try to get most of it off. And For that reason alone, I did price it a little lower than comp suggested, and I accepted an offer that was a lower than comp suggested. So don't get mad at me. I paid $2 for it. I want it to go to a new home to be reused. So I priced it at $49.99 plus $10 ship on eBay, and a buyer offered me $25 plus $10 ship, which I gladly accepted. It cost me $9.26 to ship. I did have it promoted, so those fees were $1.75. My fees to eBay were $4.85, and I turned $2 into $19.14. And that is the true beauty of the bins, is that you can pick up something for $1 or $2 and easily make an over $10 profit, which is always my goal. Now, this next item to sell is so hilarious because I actually just picked it up, I want to say 4 or 5 days ago when I went to my local Salvation Army. I had just decided to pop in. It wasn't a half off day. It was just one of those days where I felt like going thrifting. And I found this, and usually I find them and they have no value, but this one definitely did. It is this handheld Yahtzee game. And this is from 2004, so it is considered vintage now. But when I looked up comps, I was shocked. They had this priced at $4.99, and I quickly threw it in my cart because the comps were anywhere from $80 to $100. So I priced mine on the low end because I did only get it for $5, and I wanted to also extend that good deal to someone else. So I priced it on eBay for $79.99 plus $10 ship, and the exact same day I received an offer of $57 plus $10 ship, and I was not going to decline that. I was very happy to give someone a good deal, and I did not want to sit on this forever. So I accepted it. They paid $67 for a vintage handheld game. I am more than thrilled. It cost me $5.77 to ship. My fees to eBay were $9.59, and I turned $5 into $51.64. Just like being a vintage seller, I am definitely not a game or hard goods seller, but when the item is right, I will definitely look into it and hope to pick it up to make a great profit like I did on that Yahtzee game. I've really got to skedaddle out of here, so let's hop through these next 2 items. This first item I actually just got from my aunt who moved to Arizona. It is by Coldwater Creek. She sent me a couple boxes to sell for her, and to my surprise, out of all the good brands that she sent me, all the great items, this is the first one to sell. Very funny how that works, but it is a plus size. It's this beautiful embroidered teal tank. And I can see why it sold because of the embroidery and just being such a good season piece for the spring and summer seasons we are headed into. So I priced that on eBay for $27.99 plus $5 ship, and a buyer sent me an offer of $21 plus $7 ship, which I gladly accepted. It cost us $5.62 to ship. Our promotional fees, because that item was promoted, were $1.47. My fees to eBay, or our fees to eBay, were $4.14. And she made a profit of $10, and I walked away with $6.77. Very happy with that, and that too was only listed for, I want to say, 4 or 5 days, which is absolutely awesome. Now, the last item to sell yesterday is coming from my mother-in-law. She actually always gives me clothes that no longer fit, that she doesn't want anymore, to see if I want them. And if I don't want them, then she lets me go ahead and sell them online. This is one of those pieces. It is by Alexander Wang, which is a great luxury brand. And this is a really cool Y2K, like really jersey, thick knit tank. And it is this gray color block. This is just so cool and fun and quirky and artsy. So I did go ahead and list it. I listed it pretty reasonably because I do have zero cost of goods into that. So I put it up on Poshmark for 40. My Nifty sent out 20% off offers to likers of 32, and one of those likers countered at 30, which I did go ahead and accept. My fees to Poshmark were $6, and I turned a zero cost of goods into $24, which I will gladly do any day. So those are all of my sales. I actually don't even have time to package them up. I literally have to get my energy drink, my shoes on, my visor, and head out the door. So I will hopefully hop back on either tomorrow or on Monday to show you more sales. Hey y'all, it is now Monday, April 27th, and usually I'm really good about shipping out things. However, it was my stepfather's 60th birthday over this weekend, so I didn't feel like doing a lot of work because that was a lot of work in itself. Even though I wasn't in charge of setting up everything, there were a lot of people there. And then yesterday, I had a big tennis tournament. So we had a lot of things going on over the weekend. So we are going to be looking into 3 days of sales, which is Friday, April 24th, I had 2 sales. Then on Saturday, April 25th, I had 5 sales. And yesterday, on Sunday, April 26th, I also had 2 sales. So let's go ahead and hop into them because this is going to be a long what sold video. So the first item to sell on Friday is this Chico's Travelers New With Tag, beautiful green and yellow, floral printed, kind of like a tunic blouse. Very, very beautiful. And I was so happy to find this because it is new with tags. It's a great size, a size large, extra large, and it's just great for the upcoming season. However, when I looked up comps, I was very disappointed. I am getting a little frustrated with just average sellers going on there and pricing things way undervalue to flip it. It's kind of annoying, but I have realized that I just have to run comps on everything. But because this is new with tags, I did decide to still price it pretty reasonably at $30. My Nifty sent out 20% off offers to likers of 24, and one of those likers did counter at 22, and I wasn't going to haggle for a couple dollars, so I did go ahead and accept that. My fees to Poshmark were $4.40, and I made a profit of $17.60. I did pick that up for about $7 to $8, so making $10 on it, I'm okay with. Now, this next item I picked up is by A Collective Story, and I actually found this at the Los Angeles Goodwill Outlet bins. It is this beautiful ivory crochet detail maxi dress, very milkmaid, cottage core, all of those keywords. And this was an extra large, so I did decide to go ahead and pick it up. And it didn't have any stains or flaws, which we absolutely love, especially with bins items. So I priced that pretty reasonably on Poshmark for $50, and my Nifty sent out 20% off offers to likers of 40. One of those likers did counter at 30, and because I paid about $3 for that at my Goodwill outlet, I decided to go ahead and accept that. My fees to Poshmark were $6, and I turned $3 into $24. And the reason why I say I price reasonably is because I'm pricing my items to sell and not to sit. I definitely learned that lesson from Miss Gloria over on Via Glow. So Friday was pretty quick. Let's try to do the same thing with Saturday. So the first piece to sell on Saturday is by Figs. I know a lot of people don't like picking up this brand anymore, but if I get it at a reasonable price, I will. This was only marked at $5 at a thrift store that I went to. And it is a very trendy top. It is the Rafaela top, I believe. And it is just like this boxy cut. It is just a navy piece, but it doesn't have any stains, rips, or holes. So I decided to pick it up. I know I can easily always get like anywhere from $10 to $20 for each of those pieces. So $29.99 plus shipping is what I had it listed for on Depop, and I was offered $25.20 plus shipping, and I did go ahead and accept that. I did have that item boosted, so those fees were $3.02. My fees to Depop were $1.63, and my overall profit was $20.55. So as you can see, to pick up something for $5 and get a return of $20 on it, I will gladly do any day. Those are kind of like the bread and butters of my business. Now this next item is by Victoria's Secret, and as you can see, it is this flannel set of pajamas. This I actually got in a Whatnot show from Miss Destiny over on Retro by Destiny. And for all of my cost of goods for Whatnot, I average it out to about $10. So I priced that. The comps on this were incredible. I priced it at $49.99 plus $10 ship. And one of the buyers on eBay used my 18% off coupon. They paid $40.99 plus $10 ship. It cost me $10.01 to ship. I did have it promoted, so those fees were $2.55. My fees to eBay were $6.88, and I turned $10 into $31.55. I absolutely love sourcing on Whatnot because I can just have it delivered right to my doorstep, and all I have to do is photograph it, list it, and get it sold. Very, very easy process. Now, the next item to sell is by Andre by Unit, and this is new with tags. That is the only reason why I picked it up, and also because it was at a $2.99 Salvation Army sale. So it is this really cute light blue, gold and white embroidered peasant blouse. Absolutely love the style of this. However, it did take over a year to sell. But for $2.99, you really can't go wrong. So I priced that on Poshmark for $25, and my Nifty sent out 20% off offers to likers of $20. I did receive a counter offer of $17, and I happily accepted that. My fees to Poshmark were $3.40, and I made a profit of $13.60. And I need to fix this hair because it is driving me crazy. Okay, hair is fixed and we can finally move on. I actually misspoke on Saturday. I only had 4 sales, but I did have a bundle sell, and that's why I thought I had 5 sales. But 5 items, 4 sales. Let's go ahead and get into the bundle that sold. The first piece is by Rag & Bone. And these are the Sophie High Rise Ultra Wide Leg. They are just a really relaxed denim, obviously for being high rise and wide leg with that style, I would suppose. But most denim is very rigid, and this is just very soft to the feel. So love that. And then this item sold. It is this really cute gray ribbed tank top, and at first I had no idea who this was by because there is no tag, but there is, let's see, a little hit on the bottom. It is by Lululemon. And funny enough, both of these items came from my cousin back east, and I priced the Lululemon tank at $20 and the jeans at $80. So put together, it was $100. However, in my Poshmark closet, I was going to say store, in my Poshmark closet, I have a 25% off discount on 2 or more items. So that dropped the price of the bundle down to $75, and that buyer just went ahead and accepted that. Our fees to Poshmark were $15. She left with $36, and I made a profit of $24. And those were both listed under a month, so we absolutely love that. Now, the next item to sell I've had for almost 2 years, I want to say. I got it at a half off Salvation Army sale for $5. It is by COS, which is a really elevated H&M line, I want to say. They do a lot of elevated basics, and it is highly desirable, which is why I'm a little shocked that this didn't sell as fast and for more. but it's time to get it out of my inventory. It is this really cute short sleeve, short romper, and it does button in the front, and it has a nylon tie to it. Absolutely love this. And yeah, I just think it's a fantastic piece, and I wish it sold for more, but it didn't. So I priced it at $40 on Poshmark, and my Nifty sent out 20% off offers to likers of 32. One of those likers did counter at 25, and because I've had this for almost 2 years, or I want to say about 2 years in my closet, I did decide to go ahead and accept that. My fees to Poshmark were $5, and I turned $5 into 20. Very happy that that is going to be out and about and used again because it is such a fantastic piece. Now we're finally into yesterday's sales. So the first one is by Pact, which is a great brand to be on the lookout for, but depending on the price and the piece. Honestly, it doesn't retail for a whole lot, so it doesn't resell for a whole lot, and that is the case in this circumstance. So I picked this up for about $8 at my Salvation Army on a regular day, not a sales day. It is this beautiful short sleeve, kind of light khaki colored shirt dress. Very cute. It has a button front. And this piece seemed desirable, but the comps were all over the place. It does have pockets, which we absolutely love. And I priced this for $37.99 plus $10 ship on eBay. And I was consistently offered anywhere from $15 to $25, like very consistently. And I just held my ground and I waited for the right buyer, which I'm happy that I did because I countered that buyer at 28, and after a day of thinking about it, she came back and purchased it at 28. So she paid $28 plus $10 ship. It cost me $7.80 to ship. I did have it promoted, so those fees were $2.09. My fees to eBay were $5.70, and I turned $8 into $22.41. So very happy that I took the risk on that piece. Now, the last item to sell yesterday is by People of Leisure, and I found this at my local Savers. They had it priced for about $5, and I decided to grab it to lower the cost of goods of everything else I got that day. It is this really cute rodeo crop tee. It says, "Not my first rodeo." I can't read backwards. Sorry, guys. So did decide to go ahead and pick this up, and to my surprise, when I ran comps on it at home, the comps were pretty great. There were none on the resale market, but it did retail for, I want to say, $50 to $60. So I went ahead because there were none other listed. I did go ahead and price it at $40. My Nifty sent out on Poshmark 20% off offers to likers of 32, and one of those did counter at 25. And because it is such a basic piece, I did decide to go ahead and accept that. My fees to Poshmark were $5, and I turned $5 into 20. If you've been around for a while, you already know that I have to get these packaged up and go play some tennis and then drop them off at the post office. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you being here. I hope you all are having fantastic thrifting, fantastic sales, and until next time, my friends, bye.